Good evening. I'm Cody Brock here with Grayson County Weather, giving you a live weather update. Right now, I'm going to talk to you about what's happening around Kentucky. Then, after that, we'll talk to Dustin Knight about the hurricane updates and everything else. So, right now, here's a look at the radar. Right now, around our area. Right now, clean sweep on the radar. Nothing in the sky. Just a little bit of frost reflectivity on the radar right now around that area. Right now. With some around Glendale, Hodgensville right there. Let's take a look at the current temperatures around our area right now. So the current temperatures around our area right now is in the 70s right now. We'll wait for that map to load. If it will load. Okay, I do not think that's going to load for us, so... Okay, it's getting ready to. So, here's the current temperatures around the area. 70s across the board right now. 75 in Hardin County, 76 in Breckenridge County, 77 in Butler County, 76 and 75 in Warren County. Meade County, you're sitting at 75 degrees as well. Taking a look at your 4-day forecast, it's supposed to be nice this week for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I mean, for today, tomorrow, well, through the rest of the week. My graphics are like not working right now, but hopefully it's fixed. So, here's a look at the Kentucky Mesonet, courtesy of WKU. Here's a live look at Meade County right now, courtesy of the Kentucky Mesonet at WKU. This is a live look in Meade County right now. And then this is a camera up in Breckenridge County. The current time is... This is in Breckenridge County, courtesy of the Kentucky Mesonet as well. So coming up, I'm getting ready to introduce to you Dustin Knight, and he'll tell you about Hurricane Milton. It is a Category 3 hurricane right now, with wind speeds at 121 miles, wind gusts at 150, pressure is 948 millibars, and moving at 17 miles per hour. Here is Dustin with that weather update.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, as Cody was just saying, Hurricane Milton currently producing max sustained wind speeds of 120 miles per hour with gusts up to 150. Still a major hurricane. It's pretty much doing what we were expecting it to do. As you can see it on the satellite approaching the western Florida coast. The center of the storm is currently about 50 miles, 60 miles southwest of Sarasota. And we're watching closely as far as where it's actually going to make landfall. We'll talk about that here in a minute, but where it makes landfall is very crucial for exactly where the worst impacts will be. The greatest storm surge is going to be kind of right there along the eastern southern edge of the eye. So if it moves up into the Tampa Bay area, that's a catastrophic situation for them as the water funnels into the bay. If it's a little south of there, then you're talking Sarasota areas south is where the greatest storm surge is going to be. So that's kind of what we're watching closely right now. But looking at the storm on satellite, I caution people from saying that like it's weakening. I mean, it's technically weakened, but that doesn't really change anything as far as impacts go. The storm underwent explosive intensification. Now it's back down to a Category 3, but I would probably say it's transitioned to a 3 versus weakened, because it's certainly not a weak storm by any stretch. This storm is going to produce catastrophic impacts across much of Florida, especially the West Coast. We'll talk about what those impacts will be. But looking at it on satellite, the eye has kind of filled in a little bit. It's not quite as organized as it was. We expected that as it increased, experiences increased wind shear. Still, as I was talking about, really watching the landfall location closely, it's slightly north of what the center forecast track was. So it's really going to be a breath hold for the Tampa Bay area. They really don't need 15 feet of storm surge in the bay. So that's really what we're watching the closest right now. Is kind of where it's going to make landfall. And in addition to that, there's been a fairly substantial tornado outbreak today across Florida in the outer bands of Milton, with numerous large tornadoes produced. Obviously, we don't have a count, but these tropical supercells, they're not to be messed with either. I mean, because they're tornadoes, they're being steered by hurricane winds. So, they're not, these aren't tornadoes that are moving at, 20 miles per hour. They're moving at whatever the wind speed is in that particular band.
I'm K-Brock here with Grayson County Weather. Here is a live look at Naples, Florida, courtesy of EarthCam. Look at the storm surge that is coming on from Hurricane Milton, which is a Category 3 hurricane right now. But let's first take a look of what's happening in our area right now. So right now, we got a clean sweep on the radar right now across Kentucky right now. A little bit of frost reflectivity showing up around on the radar around Hodgensville, New Haven, around that area as well right now. Let's take a look at the current temperatures around the area, courtesy of the Kentucky Mesonet at WKU. So current temperatures across the area right now: Grayson County, you're at 75 degrees. Hardin County, you're at 75 degrees. Butler County, you're at 76. Breck County, you're at 75 degrees. Meade County, you're at 75 degrees right now as well. Your 4-day forecast, it's supposed to be in the 70s this week and sunny. That's what it's looking like for the rest of the weekend too. And then low temperatures at night. It will be in the 40s and 50s around that area. And let's take a look at the, excuse me, of the Kentucky Mesonet cameras. This is a Kentucky Mesonet, courtesy of the Kentucky Mesonet at WKU. This is a Mesonet camera in Meade County, and that's what it's looking like right now in Meade County. And we'll show you what it's looking like in Breck County as well. So this is the Breck County Mesonet camera right here. So, coming up, I'm getting ready to introduce you Dustin tonight, and he'll tell you about Hurricane Milton that is in the, that's around, that's in the Gulf. That's what I'm trying to say. Here is Dustin with talking about Hurricane Milton.
Thanks, Cody. I appreciate you having me on. I've been doing a lot of interviews and stuff. I'm sure all of us are. So I appreciate you letting me come on to talk to your viewers. Yeah, as you said, Hurricane Milton's in the Gulf of Mexico right now. It's about 60 miles west-southwest of Sarasota, Florida, or at least the center of the storm is. Again, 50 to 60 miles from the coast. Moving northeast about 17 miles per hour. Latest measurements show it at a central pressure of 948 millibars, which is the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm, and that's certainly very strong. Max sustained wind speeds at 120 miles per hour with gusts up to 150, still a very significant storm. And looking at it on satellite, and this is something that's been talked about a lot, it was forecast a lot, the storm is undergoing some weakening as it approaches the coast, which is what we expected. But I would caution, and I've been trying to be careful in my language and my updates and stuff, that just because it's weakening doesn't really change a whole lot as far as impacts. We're still talking about a major hurricane. Category 3 is significant. We'll talk about the categories here in a little bit. 120 mile per hour sustained winds. I mean, you're talking extensive damage. And then the storm surge of 10, 15 plus feet, that's unsurvivable storm surge. That's significant and extensive, and that's something we're very concerned about. And even though it's as close to the coast as it is, we're still not entirely sure where it's going to make landfall, because a shift of 10 to 20 miles is the difference in kind of who gets the worst of it. It's a little bit north. If you look at the center of the storm, it's a little bit north of the kind of center track of the forecast cone. And it's generally tracking towards like the Tampa Bay kind of Sarasota area. But the worst of the storm surge is generally going to be like the eastern quadrant, southeast quadrant, where the air is kind of flowing, from the southwest and from the south below, that onshore flow. So if the center of the storm tracks kind of just over the bay or just north of the bay, then that's a worst case scenario for Tampa Bay as you're funneling all that water into the bay. So that's the worst case, kind of a worst case scenario for them. If the storm's 10, 15 miles to the south of the bay, then you're shifting kind of the worst of the impact or worst of the storm surge down towards like Sarasota, Cape Coral, kind of that area. So that's why the track of the storm is still, even at a short range, is still very critical. And frankly, it's a breath hold. If you're in the Tampa Bay area, this is a breath hold right now. You're kind of hoping that the center of the storm stays to your south, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. So that's kind of what we're tracking right now. There's been a pretty substantial tornado outbreak with this storm as well, which, while common with tropical cyclones, it has been a bit more notable with this one. And these are very difficult tornadoes to deal with because they're moving very fast. They're being steered by a hurricane. They're often kind of difficult to anticipate. You're not going to see them. So all in all, just a very difficult situation down there in Florida right now. we expect the impacts to really everybody from like the I-4 corridor south is being impacted by this storm, and it will maintain hurricane strength all the way across the peninsula. So we expect, again, significant impacts along the coast. These can't be, you can't really emphasize the danger enough. Areas along the coastline will generally be unsurvivable. You're talking 15 feet of water or more, extensive damage, trees are going to be down everywhere, power outages for an extensive period of time. You're going to have almost no gas, no water, no electricity for, I mean, it's hard to say how long, but days, weeks, or even months for some people. That's a very complex disaster scenario. So that's why this storm has kind of been such a big deal. As you look, I was talking about the satellite. The eye on satellite imagery is kind of filled in a little bit, but if at the radar image you can still see a very defined closed circulation, and the strongest winds in the storm are going to be kind of right there around the actual center eye. So like if you look at the radar here, you can see the darker reds, and then there's a velocity. So the strongest winds are kind of orbiting right around the center eye there. So that's why we're watching that particular area closely. So conditions are going to continue to deteriorate over the next few hours. Really, if you're anywhere between like Tampa, Cape Coral, if you're anywhere along that coastline, these conditions are going to continue to get worse over the next several hours, really peaking through the night. And then the storm will track off to the northeast across the peninsula tomorrow, moving up towards like the Orlando area, that I-4 corridor that I mentioned. And I know, Cody, I know that you had said you might have some questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask them at this time, and I'll be happy to answer what I can. Or I guess really anybody, if anybody watching has any questions, or if you want to ask some questions, I can kick it over to you. It's whatever you want to do.
All right. What are the key difference between a tropical storm and a hurricane?
Yeah, so the main difference is really just strength. It's a classification or rating scale that we use. There are some meteorological differences. Tropical storms are that's when they get their name. So, they can develop kind of as a cluster of thunderstorms. When they become a little more organized, it'll be classified as a tropical storm. That's when we name them. But the technical difference is that a tropical storm is a storm of tropical characteristics, meaning developing in the tropics, with wind speeds between 39 and 73 miles per hour. So once we see sustained wind speeds in that range, it will get the tropical storm classification. And then once it gets to 74 or greater, then it'll be classified as a hurricane. So yeah, the technical difference is wind speed or strength.
How are hurricanes categorized, and what does each category represent in a term of potential damage?
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off the last answer, that's everybody's favorite phrase to use in a meeting. But piggybacking off the last answer, we use what's called the Saffir-Simpson scale. So as I said, once a storm kind of gets organized, starts producing wind, and within that threshold to become a tropical storm, that's 39 to 73 miles per hour. Once it reaches hurricane strength at 74 plus, it's a 1 to 5 scale, so category 1 through category 5. And really, each category, so like a category 1, that's up to 95 miles per hour, you're going to see some damage. I mean, that's still significant wind. That's a severe thunderstorm, for example, would be a thunderstorm producing 58 mile per hour winds. So you're talking 74 to 95. You're talking roof damage to well-built homes, several trees down. You're going to see some power outages. A significant storm, survivable, but you're going to see kind of minor to moderate damage to well-built homes with like roofs and shingles, windows blown out, that type of thing. You get up to 2, that's 96 to 110 miles per hour. More extensive damage, major roof damage to well-built homes, a lot of trees down. You're going to see large branches broken, trees uprooted, power poles down. You do typically start to see more extended power outages with a Category 2 storm because the damage just becomes more widespread. Once you reach Category 3, that's what we consider a major hurricane. Anything 3 and above is considered a major hurricane. That's going to be 110 to 129 miles per hour, and these are devastating storms. You're talking major damage to well-built homes. Exterior walls can be, kind of blown out. Electricity is going to be out for days to weeks. And just as an example, Katrina, not saying every Category 3 is like Katrina because there were other circumstances with the levees and all that, but Katrina was a Category 3 at landfall. And obviously, we know what it was capable of doing. When you get to 4 and 5, then you start really 3, 4, and 5, but a Category 4 storm is going to do catastrophic damage. Exterior walls gone from a lot of well-built homes. Homes that aren't so well built, can be totally destroyed. It's really a survival situation at that point. You're going to see extensive damage across the entire area impacted, major storm surge, unsurvivable storm surge, as I was saying. And then Category 5 storm, which the reason I know there's been a lot of talk about like Category 6, the reason there's not a Category 6 storm is because Category 5 is anything 157 miles per hour or greater. So as long as it's greater than that, it's Category 5. And that's producing catastrophic damage. I mean, it's not going to get much worse than that. Pretty much anything in its path is going to be basically destroyed. Some areas are going to be uninhabitable for weeks to months. Just really an unbelievable amount of damage from like the Category 4, Category 5 storms. So that's the way we rate them is the Saffir-Simpson scale. That's what it's called, and it's a 1 to 5 rating with each level kind of being representing more and more significant damage.
What's safest I skipped one. What are the primary factors that influence the path of hurricanes that the hurricanes will take?
Yeah, so the main thing that steers a hurricane is the upper level wind field, kind of the mid atmosphere into the upper level, like jet stream level. That's the main thing. So you'll get features like the Bermuda High, which is kind of a large high pressure system over the Western Atlantic. Sometimes it extends into the Eastern U.S. Systems like that will kind of guide it. But yeah, generally it's the upper level wind field is what steers it. Sometimes if you get like a stalled out frontal boundary, it can guide it one way or the other. As I said, like with this storm, one of the reasons we were so confident that it wasn't going to take the same path that Helene took is kind of large high pressure to its north, just literally holding it to the south. So it's kind of following the upper level winds to the south of that high pressure system. But yeah, it's large pressure systems and upper level wind fields are what steer them, and they kind of just ride along with the kind of the mean flow of the atmosphere.
What safety precautions should people take before a hurricane makes landfall?
Yeah, so this is a great question. There are a lot of things you can do, but generally, obviously, one is follow along with local, trusted meteorologists and local officials, emergency management officials, for like evacuation orders and stuff. But as far as like what you can do, I always encourage people build a disaster kit, and we can talk about what goes into a disaster kit. But generally, you're going to want medicine, food, water, non-perishable food specifically. Important financial records, some cash. If the power's out, it's going to be hard to use a card, so it's always good to have extra cash on hand. Any like lights. You want battery powered things and then plenty of batteries. A battery powered radio. Obviously, with disaster activations of like free Wi-Fi in some areas, that helps a little. But yeah, you're going to want generally just the things that you're going to need if you're on your own for an extended period of time. Generally, it's recommended at least 3 days, but I would say enough supplies to last, a week or more. Have an evacuation plan. What's your family going to do if an evacuation order is issued? It's like know what zone you're in. I know, they've got different zones based on where you live in Florida. It's like know what zone you're in and what you're going to do and communicate it with your family. Flood proof your home. And obviously you can't entirely protect it, but try to minimize the water damage the best you can. Put things where they're not going to get wet. Anything that you can't take with you if you do evacuate. But yeah, as I said, the main thing is have a disaster kit, a go bag, whatever you're going to need that includes medicine, water, food, and then communicate this with your family and just know what you're going to do. I would say that's kind of the biggest thing is have a kit and know what you're going to do and be ready to act on it.
What should be included in an emergency hurricane preparedness kit?
Yeah, so kind of, I was just mentioning it, but
yeah.
You're going to want water, non-perishable food, because the water system can very likely be contaminated after a major storm. So you're going to want clean drinking water, non-perishable food items, food you're not going to have to take care of. Critical medicine. A lot of people are dealing with Helene. They're running out of their prescriptions and they're having to fly, doctors and pharmacists in to help people get important medicine. So have your medicine, water, food. As I said, some sort of way to get information like a battery powered emergency radio so you can get critical updates. Something for lights if you're going to be, you're going to want flashlights and lots of batteries. And then again, cash. That's an important thing. If you do find a place to get supplies, then you're going to want to be able to purchase them. A lot of times the point of sale systems are down, so those are kind of the main things. And then you kind of personalize it a little bit. What are things that you're going to need? If you're going to be without help for so many days, or whatever the case is, like what are the things that you're going to need for your family to get by as easy as you can.
How far in advance can you typically predict the strength and trajectory of a hurricane?
It varies a little bit. With Helene, we were all over that storm for over a week. It does vary a little bit because a lot of times we'll start forecasting these storms really from the moment they're just like a cluster of thunderstorms over the water and they haven't organized in anything. So generally, we can start giving a heads up that kind of ballpark it maybe a week out, kind of that 7 to 10 day range. We can start saying like, hey, there's a system we're watching. This is the general direction we expect it to travel. And this is kind of the ballpark of, based on the environment, how strong we think it'll be. But of course, we're going to dial that in. We can't tell you exactly 10 days out what it's going to do. But this storm, really, we're just now to the point that we can tell you where we think it's really going to make landfall. And this storm has been excellently forecast, but we couldn't tell Tampa if they were going to get hit or not going to get hit. So yeah, I would say we can ballpark it about a week, and then we're going to dial that in every day, as the storm gets closer and closer. Because and in the models, the more organized the storm gets and the more data we get from it, the better the models get because they ingest that data. So yeah. To summarize, like 7 to 10 days, we can ballpark it pretty well, and then we try to get more and more detailed as the days go on.
What is the significance of an eye of a hurricane, and why is it something calm, or however you pronounce that word.
Oh, okay. Uh, so yeah, I think you're asking like what's significant about the eye and uh, why is it calm? Why can that be misleading sometimes? Um, yeah, so the eye of the storm, for one, it's significant because it generally represents a more organized tropical system. Tropical storms are, when you see a tropical storm, sometimes they can be they're asymmetrical. Like, if you've seen the satellite and radar images of Milton, you're talking about a storm that looked like a buzzsaw with a very tiny little pinhole eye. Tropical storms a lot of times look like a large, kind of disorganized cluster of thunderstorms with maybe a little bit of spin at the surface. So when you get that eye, that's something we look for that kind of indicates that, like, okay, this storm's getting its act together. Um, it and then what causes it's kind of a complicated thing, but you've got sinking air in the middle that's kind of suppressing cloud formation and stuff, and it's sometimes misleading because, well, yes, it is calm, generally calm, or at least a lot calmer in the eye. A lot of times you'll see clear skies. I've been in several hurricanes myself, and I remember Hurricane Irma. It made landfall overnight, and when we were in the eye of it, we could see the stars. But it's a little misleading sometimes because the strongest part of the storm is right outside that eye. Like, it surrounds the eye. It's what we call the eye wall. So, a lot of people, the eye comes over them. They might think that, they're kind of in the clear. Things have calmed down a lot. You can go outside. So a lot of people do. And then on the backside of the eye, they get hit by that eye wall again. And it almost immediately, you're in the worst part of the storm again. And it can catch people off guard because you go from fairly calm conditions to the worst conditions fairly quickly. Once the backside of that eye wall rolls over you, you're right back in the thick of it.
How does climate change impact the frequency and intensity of a hurricane?
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of misinformation about climate change out there, but for one thing, like, climate change itself doesn't cause any one storm. I know as like a scientist, I just have to put that out there. Like, climate change itself doesn't, like, this storm isn't individually a result of whether the climate's changing or not, which it is, but that's not why this storm is here. Weather's going to happen anyway. There are factors that are on a smaller scale than the climate that are going to impact individual storms. Where climate change comes into play is that, a tropical storm, for example, or a tropical cyclone, generally speaking, it needs warm water. It needs abundant moisture to kind of fuel it. That's what it needs. So if if the ocean waters at large are significantly warmer than they've been before, then when you throw storms over that environment, on average, they're going to be stronger than before. So you're going to see more storms that are generally stronger than before. It doesn't mean you won't see weak hurricanes from time to time. That's still going to happen. There's still meteorology at play. But yeah, generally climate change just means that you'll see more storms more often, and they're on average going to be stronger than in the past.
What steps should be taken during a hurricane to stay safe if someone can't evacuate?
Yeah, if somebody can't evacuate, a lot of it kind of goes back to some of the preparedness stuff I was talking about earlier. Make sure you've got a survival kit. You're gonna want your supplies, especially if it's a storm like this, where they may not be able to get to people for an extended time. That's the disaster response agencies, they're working hard, but I mean, there's only so many people that can do so much. So you're going to want to make sure you've boarded up your home the best that you can. You've flood-proofed it the best you can. You're going to want to make sure that you've got kind of all your critical documents and records secure as best that you can. Really lean heavy on that disaster kit. Make sure that you've got supplies that you've got abundant supplies or ample supplies to be on your own for an extended period of time. That's kind of the main thing. Like, you're probably going to be on your own for a little while, and you're going to want to make sure that you've got the medicine, the food, the water, the things like that that are going to get you by until, if you are in the worst case scenario, until help can arrive. That's generally it. Is just kind of bunker down, make sure you've got a kit, communicate, try to update people about your status as often as you can. I know people sometimes will take their phone and they'll have it as charged as much as they can. And, whatever, every hour they'll change their voicemail. So they'll say, this is so-and-so, I'm at this location, I'm okay, I'll update you the next time at 6 o'clock. And that way people can call them. It doesn't kill their battery. They can hear the voicemail. They're okay. They know that they're okay. But yeah, the short of it, if you can't evacuate, you've got to have these kits built and communicate with people and be prepared to kind of get yourself by for an extensive amount of time.
What post-hurricane hazards should people be aware of once the storm has passed?
So obviously debris. You're going to have trees down. You're going to have flooding. But then you've also got things like, you're going to have live power lines. You can have live power lines down. Everything that's floating in the water is a hazard. Contaminated water, gas leaks. You oftentimes see a lot of gas leaks. That's obviously dangerous. So,
do you see that top camera right there?
Top right one or top left?
Top right.
Yeah.
You see that person right there?
I do.
Let me see if I can.
I've definitely been down there to cover some hurricanes myself before, but I don't know if that's the location I would pick.
Yeah, that's in Naples, Florida. He put some kind of flag out. But I ain't mentioning it because we don't need any politics stuff on here. Because this is a weather page, y'all. We don't want no politics or nothing. Am I right?
I'm a meteorologist. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I know weather.
But yeah. So we can go back to that question. I was just wondering if
Yeah. So yeah, post storm hazards. Like I was saying, you're going to have flooding. You're going to have contaminated water, bacteria. That's going to be a danger. Debris, if you get out, it's going to be hard to travel around, so you're not going to want to venture too far. Trees down everywhere. It's going to take a long time to open places up to get around. Mold, that's a very common one. You get these homes that flood and then they mold. Tap water, try to avoid tap water until you're notified that it's clear, because you don't know what's happened, to the water, your water supply. And like I said, extended power outages. So, all the things that come along with that, food going bad. Obviously, certain things that if it's, summertime and it gets really hot following the storm, that can be dangerous. But the main thing is going to be debris and flooding. Everything is now kind of out and about. It's just really dangerous to be out in that, just in general.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to say?
I would just like to say that I appreciate everyone. I know you've been kind of sharing me with your followers. We've been working hard, like as meteorologists and forecasters and the emergency responders, and everybody has been working really hard. So many people were stretched thin after Helene, and now we've got Milton. So I just want to say I kind of appreciate everybody following along with what we do and what you do, and kind of letting us try to keep you all informed and up to date. And we'll get through this one. I know a lot of us are gonna help our people down in Florida. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for following along with what we do.
And knowing me, there will be probably a lot more donations that churches and everybody will set up so everybody can help out like they did for Helene. They've been sending stuff to North Carolina or whatever Carolina it is. Then some to Tennessee and stuff like that. And I will get with you all about those, and I'll share them to the Grayson County Weather page if they come say anything that they're going to do donations. Well, I will announce that on the Grayson County Weather page so we can get the community to help out. So we can send donations to the hard-hit areas for everyone. But
I would like to piggyback off that real quick. I'm working closely with some meteorologists and other people in Florida right now. I've been helping them kind of cover this storm. So yeah, same. I know a lot of us are going to be kind of sending supplies, or some of us will be going down there to help after the storm. So yeah, any opportunities that come up for people to help, I'll make sure to pass that along on my meteorologist Dustin Knight page.
And he'll do the same and post it to the Grayson County Weather page as well, because he's the admin of that page too. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good. If you're good, I'm good.
Well, I'm good. I want to thank everybody for tuning in here for Grayson County Weather, talking about the Kentucky weather and Hurricane Milton, which is a Category 3 hurricane. I want to thank y'all for tuning in.